Welcome to the architecture of the in-between. This video demystifies Homi Bhabha's post-colonial theory and challenges the illusion of the cultural divide. Traditional myths portray power as absolute and cultures as pure. In contrast, Bhabha sees power as unstable and cultures as inherently mixed. The real world is defined by liminal, overlapping spaces in between. Bhabha argues that the authority of dominant nations is never complete because it is marked by anxiety. When traditional identities meet complex cultural realities, it creates an anxious fracture in the colonizer's self-image. Concept 1 is the stereotype. It is a rigid, repetitive label used to desperately patch the anxious crack in the colonizer's authority. This cycle moves from the encounter with difference to psychological anxiety and fixation. The stereotype is a paradox. It acts as a mask, simplifying the colonized into a known quantity, while simultaneously betraying a fear of them as a chaotic threat. It proves the colonizer is terrified of fluid difference. Concept 2 is mimicry. This means being almost the same, but not quite. The colonized copy the colonizer's culture just enough to turn obedience into mockery, creating a misaligned shadow of subversion. The colonizer demands similarity to maintain control. However, absolute equivalence would destroy the myth of superiority. Mimicry exploits this flaw in the system by reflecting a, quote, partial presence and using sly civility as a weapon. Concept 3 is hybridity. Cultures don't peacefully merge. Instead, the violent collision of colonization creates a chaotic new reality that forever alters both sides. Culture A plus culture B does not equal culture A plus B. We often wrongly assume pure cultures existed before becoming hybridized. Bhabha argues that constant cultural exchange is the default human state. The idea of a pure culture is an artificial boundary invented to enforce power. Concept 4 is the uncanny. This is the deeply unsettling feeling when what should be familiar suddenly reveals a repressed, foreign history. It occurs when Western modernity sees the colonial history it tried to erase staring back. Modernity attempts to define itself through rational progress, separating the past from the present. Yet, the modern world is fundamentally built upon the repressed violence of colonialism, which constantly interrupts and confronts the present. Concept 5 is the nation. A nation is not a fixed fact. It is an ongoing narrative, torn between its rigid historical myths and the daily lives of its people. It requires both the static skeleton of history and the living, breathing actions of its people. The nation is narrated through two movements: the pedagogical, which is the static, official history, and the performative, which is the dynamic, living actions of the people. The nation is always becoming, not just what it was. The unifying insight is that hybridity creates the third space. This liminal in-between zone is where colonizer and colonized collide. The third space is the true location of culture, where all meaning is endlessly renegotiated. Bhabha's framework destroys the popular myth of the clash of civilizations, which relies on the idea of pure cultures. We must abandon the illusion of us versus them and recognize that global identity is forged in unpredictable hybrid spaces.